What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So as y'all know, today is indeed Wednesday, which means the new summit is now live here in Motorfest. With that, we're going to have Made by Ivory Tower, and we're going to get the Ivory Tower Ogmios Rally spec. If you are wondering, yes, that photo is not going to be the right one. The actual car is the one in the background, which you also get to drive again in this summit, similar to last week, but it's not going to be the exact same race. Next week is going to be Bugatti, which is probably not that surprising, is also going to be the French tires, and then the EB110 Super Sport in gold, and yeah, money and XP after that. But looking at this summit, guys, there's not going to be any crazy modifiers in this one. You will pretty much end up just having the 3 vehicle loaned events, and after that, you will have to use the vehicles the game does end up providing, and that is pretty much it. When it does come to the skills, though, the slalom is going to be very straightforward. I got 155,000 points, not even running a score breaker. I figured, you know what, let me just throw on a chemist set. I did end up having skilled on every single part, and I still got 155,000 points, literally around 2,000 points from the maxed out scores on it. For the Speedtrap, you are probably going to notice people most likely using the Air Nitro to get way faster on this one. To be honest, guys, that is not going to be necessary unless you really want to do it. The way I did end up doing this one is I basically went down the road and pretty much went around the Speedtrap objective to the other side of it. Going down that road, I pretty much turned around, went toward the objective, and got 300 miles per hour. The only thing you will need for that is going to be a chemist set with pure and frenetic to give you the most power out of your nitrous. I pretty much ran around that final corner, hit my nitrous in 8th gear, and got all the way to 300 miles an hour very easily. To be honest, I think that's the easiest way. Instead of trying to use like the jump nitrous, getting another 4,000 points, honestly, it doesn't seem to be that worth it. The final skill here is going to be a long jump. All you literally need is a score breaker on this one, guys. I got 2,300 yards, obviously not going to be the best because I didn't turn around on the objective and get a running start. I pretty much started this said one, went down the hill, hit the jump, got 2,300 yards, and boom, I got a maxed out score of 157,000 points. So yeah, that was going to be very simple. For the top event here is going to be the vehicle loan, which is going to be the Ogmios Rally, which here I will click on this so you can see it. It's honestly a pretty cool looking car, not going to lie. I think they did a great job on the body design of this one, and I am looking forward to driving it as it does seem to be a pretty dang good rally car. If now they could just add some rally races would honestly be wonderful, but overall this event is going to be fairly simple. There is going to be some cuts here and there in this one, so I would recommend keeping an eye out for those. I do know there's probably going to be some reset areas, but I am not going to take advantage of those. I pretty much found a few cuts there. And what I do mean by cuts, I'm not going to be like cutting the entire track or doing these weird things. Basically going to be the checkpoints being farther away from each other. You can clearly tell that, yo, I could go straight through this instead of going around the road, which that is going to save you some valuable seconds there. After that, though, it is then going to be the multi-vehicles loan. For this, you are going to have to pretty much use the regular Aezus. Again, I'm probably mispronouncing it, but you're going to have to use this one. Then you're also going to have to use the other one, which is the Stealth Edition, and that is pretty much going to be it. To be honest, I would say this event is fairly simple, and I would say a lot of people are probably going to feel that way about multiples of these. Like, for example, the Street Tour 2 event here, guys, I got around 3 minutes and 50 seconds, and the vehicle you're going to have to run is the Ogmios. This car, I would say, going to be fair PvP. You can't do much of anything to it. Is honestly going to be a fairly decent car for this event. It handles well, doesn't have anything crazy going on, so I would say players are probably going to be fine in this one. For the other event, though, is going to be in the Ivory Tower Alpha GP vehicle here in the middle. The reason why I figured I'd go over this one next is because a lot of this race is on the highway, so do be prepared to basically keep that car maxed out, be a tad faster on the turns and all that, and you should be good to go on this one. Again, I am not running a chemist set on any of the main events here, which is going to be these 3. I pretty much should end up running like a regular like score breaker with some random part sets on it, or I pretty much ran something like a loot digger or something like that, so I'm not running a regular chemist. just to make the events a tad more interesting. Besides that though, the rally raid event here is going to be with the Ivory Tower Falcon S, or Falcon, however you want to say that. It's probably Falcon. Falcon is not the same thing. But either way though, this one is going to be one of the events where you really want to take advantage of doing something with the nitrous, which is going to be the air nitro. Make sure you guys are hitting that when you are in the air. It is going to give you way more power. Funny part is, I did end up doing this event without a chemist set, so if I ran it, I would obviously be a lot faster. But to be honest, I really don't see a reason to do it. For the final one though, you are going to have to use the Aezus GT, which is going to be the racing one. To be honest guys, not running pro settings on these vehicles, this thing is really wonky to drive without pro settings. It is going to slide a bit, it doesn't grip all that much, and to be honest, it does not act like a racing vehicle. But overall though, once you get used to the cornering of it, there's also going to be a few cuts here and there around certain corners. And with that being said, I also want to mention toward the end of this event, do keep in mind you can cut that final corner a good amount, guys, which is definitely going to save you probably 3 to 4 seconds depending on how you hit it. Besides that though, overall, this summit's probably not going to be all that difficult, with many of the events being fairly straightforward. If you guys have any questions, do let me know in the comments below. Besides that, let's jump right into this.